Hello, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Yusuf Abdul-Hakim Adimala. I am AWS Cloud Security Group, West Africa Ambassador. Today is another edition AWS User Group University of Ibadan Bootcamp that we are currently organizing. Today we are going to be having one of the excellent speakers from the University of Ibadan, a lecturer from the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, Engineer Abdul-Lateef Ogundipe, who is an AWS Solutions Architect. Mr. Engineer Abdul-Lateef Ogundipe, are you there?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Good morning,
thank you so
and good morning to everyone.
Good session.
Okay. Can I begin?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Good morning to everyone, and I hope you're having a great weekend. And it's nice to be here with you. I'm really glad to be invited and be a I invited a guest to deliver this presentation, and I will be speaking about data storage and retrieval with Amazon S3. So the bootcamp started last week, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the very educative lecture that was given by the speaker, which gives us an insight into what cloud is. It was really robust, and I hope you really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward for you to also bring to you one of the key services of AWS. So I know this we have quite a different audience at the beginner stage, at the intermediate stage experts. As much as possible, I have developed these contents to be able to fit in to everyone and be able to learn one or two things. All right. So please can you confirm if my screen is on the next slide?
Okay, yeah.
Outline. Great. Okay, thanks so much. I just want to be sure that you guys are following me. So today we are going to be talking about a very basic service in AWS, but as simple as it might sound, it's also very, very important and very powerful when we are talking about the Amazon S3. The S3 was coined from the full meaning, which is simple storage service. And today I will be focusing on speaking on data storage and retrieval with Amazon S3. And this will be the outline that I will be taking you through as we have. So yeah, what is Amazon S3? Amazon S3 is an object storage service offered by AWS and provides scalability, data availability, security, and performance. So Amazon S3, you can just see is like a kind of storage where you put your files. And the way that they try to we try to explain this to anyone is you will hear that there are key terms that is being used. You will hear objects and you also hear buckets. So in a real sense, just to simplify this and so that we won't be speaking so much of grammar, look at the bucket as a folder on your laptop. I'm very sure we are all familiar with folder and files. So the bucket is like a container. That's how it's like an object container where you place objects. So the bucket is more of like a folder, whereas the files in the folder are the objects. So because a lot of time when you come across Amazon S3, you will come across bucket name and object, or buckets and objects, and you'll be wondering. And that's why you see in the logo, it has something of such. So what are the core benefits? Is apt to store and retrieve any amount of data. It can store a lot, as much as 5 terabytes inside buckets, and when you can store as much as this size. Is a lot. And in terms of I was trying to mention the buckets and objects. The bucket is just like a logical container, which, like I said, is like a folder on your system. And when we talk about the name, the name must be locally unique. All things being equal, I intend to do an hands-on at the end of the day so that we'll see this, so that it will just not just be theoretical. Hopefully, the network does not disappoint. So now let's keep going. The object is the individual file stored in the bucket. So like I said, the files that are placed inside the buckets are what we refer to as objects. There's one key thing that uniquely identify each document bucket or object that we have, especially the buckets in the AWS S3. It must have a unique name, and similarly, it can be identified by a unique key. So a lot of time, when you want to see the file format of how S3 is being saved in the AWS, so these are the two. You will see the bucket name, S3 Amazon, and the object key, or s3amazon.com/bucket name and object key. It's very important that we introduce this concept to you before we dive into the main topic about object storage and retrieval in Amazon S3. So that's why I'm bringing this introduction for a lot of us who might not be familiar with Amazon S3. So going forward, I brought out key features. I don't know, I'm very sure that a lot of us here, we are potential, if you are not currently into the cloud, maybe be a cloud someone, engineer or solution architect or different cloud professional, you are aspiring to be. So there are things that when you are trying to architect a solution, when you want to use your service, you must know, why am I using your service? Because Amazon S3 is not the only storage available on AWS. We have the Elastic File System, we have the Elastic Block Storage, and several others, which has their own usage. But the key features and advantages of Amazon S3 are what I've showed here in this chart, which are majorly four. One, scalability. When I was doing the introduction, I mentioned that it can go as high as possible. And one feature about cloud, like you had, for those of us that are present in the last week, is something that has, you just need to pay for what you are using, and immediately when you need to scale up, you can scale at the minute that you intend to scale up. And that's something around the agility of the cloud. At any time, you can deploy anything or scale as much as once. So one of the key service that is very useful for this scalability is the S3, because it helps in handling the growing storage need. Another key thing that you need to know about S3 is the low latency. It's very, very easy. When we talk about latency, is the amount of time we needed to wait for us to be able to access our documents from the cloud, which is the S3. So they're now telling us that it has a very low latency. That means immediately you seek for your files, you're able to get it. And that's what it means by ideal for real-time access. And we'll still be talking further on this. Security is not something that we can joke with when it comes to cloud. And when we are talking about
Engineer Abdul-Lateef, I think your slide is still in the first slide.
Okay. That, I think, what about now?
Yeah, it's changing now.
Okay, I tried to confirm that while I was speaking, just to be sure. But now that I think, did we all see this part? I guess we didn't see this part. So a lot of things that I said in the last couple of minutes were from these slides, and I just want you to have an overview. I will be sure to share this slide with the organizer so that they can share it with us and we can also review it. But as much as possible, just pay attention. I've made this talk to be as simple as possible. I will be using less of technical terms. I will be focusing on terms that are quite common, except when necessary. So if you can follow with my talk, then you should be able to get a lot from this session. All right, so I was talking about the security. I've spoken about the scalability. I've spoken about the low latency, the security. You are able to secure your objects, your data. You know, data is very essential. If for every company that wants to store their data, they needed to know that their data is safe. And we'll still talk about the security part. Then durability and availability. There is, when say something is durable, it has a lot of it's stored redundantly across multiple devices and facilities. And when we talk about it, you know, S3, I needed to mention you that S3 is a regional service whereby it includes several availability zones. For some of us, there are some basic that we have regions, we have availability zones, we have edge, all those edge locations. All those things are how AWS is able to share data across the globe. So S3 is very available to be accessed from everywhere. So now, before we delve into going into the data retrieval and storage, it's very essential that you need to know the different storage classes. And briefly, we'll be looking at this. About here, we have about 8 different classes. But for some people, it won't be surprising that they've just been familiar with 5 or 4 because they are the one commonly mentioned about. But for this for this session, I will ensure to explain these 8 to you, as you can see on the slide. The first type is the most common one, which is like the default of S3, which is the S3 standard. S3 standard is a general purpose storage for frequent access data. And something that differentiates all these things, apart from their different properties, is one is cost, because the cost of each type or each category is different from each other. And as much as flexible that Amazon S3 is, they don't expect you that if you don't need to access data frequently, you should now go and be paying for a category whereby you access data frequently. And what is that? That is S3 standard IA. That's the third one, standard infrequent access. So they have different characteristics because one, you are accessing one frequently. Two, when I say frequently, maybe it's the data that you want to be using day by day. There are some type of data that you just want to be using it weekly. So it doesn't make sense when you architect a solution and you go ahead to do for standard access. Another one is the intelligent tiering. I think this one is quite a little bit as its cost more than the standard IA. But an advantage of this one is there are sometimes you are not even sure of, is this my data frequent or infrequent? There are sometimes, due to one reason, you have high needs for data, and at some point due to any dynamics in the environment. So this standard intelligence helps you monitor the rate at which you process your data over time and try to fit into, what is the best? Will I put it in the frequency access or the infrequent access? This is the one major type of S3 that is being used. Then we talk about one zone. When we talk about one zone, what it means is that this is kind of storage that is available in single availability zone. You know, I spoke to you earlier that S3 is a I spoke to you earlier that S3 is a regional service, but there is a type that when you need availability zone, you need when you just need to serve data in one availability zone, you can just use the one zone. I don't want to take so much time. The Glacier, when you hear about the Glacier and Glacier Retriever, they are ones that when you need long-term storage, you want to archive and all. That's what Glacier is about, and these are the 3 categories. And lastly is the L3 Outpost, whereby you have on-premise AWS Asper environment for local data storage. So it's very essential as a cloud person and someone very good with S3 to know this category of data, because when clients comes to meet you, I want to do this, I want to do this, I have different kind of, and you'll be able to know that, this is the best that suits you. I really hope you are still with me, because all these things that I'm telling you, a lot of times what you will see around is the standard intelligent tiering and the intelligent standard infrequent access. You barely hear people, maybe they will just tell you about Glacier for archival and long-term storage, but breaking it down into what I've tried to do, you rarely hear people say it. So please take note of this. All right, so I have intentionally brought this just to give an overview. There is nothing much. It's just to say you that, oh, how does S3 work? You put your data inside the Amazon S3 bucket, which is being stored uh, in a specific region. You know, I told you that S3 is a region service. You need to select a specific region for you to serve. And your data can be shared. It can be, number one, there can be control access, there can be optimized cost. You know, I talked about storage classes. That's what the last column inside that box is talking about, the second point. Then able to replicate, there's cross replication, access from on-premise or VPC, and protection of data, which we'll still be looking at. And when you want to retrieve this data, you might want to download your data, you might want to use it to build a machine learning pipeline. Maybe you should move your data through it and all. So those are the key. This is a structure gotten from the AWS website. Now, this is one of the key things that I was asked to come and discuss, which is quite simple, but you just need to be aware. How do we store data in S3? There are we've already spoke about that our data is in buckets and objects, where buckets are like folders and where our files are like the objects. Now, how can we store data? I've listed 4 ways here, and a lot of time, the most common one that you see people talk about, or that you might be familiar with, except you're a core developer, is the AWS console, whereby you go to the AWS, you log in, and you pick the S3, and you're able to access the interface. By this, it's the very simplest way of uploading and storing files in the S3 using the web UI user interface. So we'll try to look at that if you still have time. This AWS CLI is also quite common among developers because, number one, when you have a lot of files and large files to upload, sometimes for speed's sake, you are being advised to use the command line interface, whereby you have your user access keys to be able to log in through. Maybe you are using a notebook, maybe like Jupyter Notebook. You already know the necessary libraries to import and how to connect to your accounts using your access ID and keys. And then there are some commands. In the referencing section of my slide, I have placed the link that actually show the detailed ways of storing data in terms of uploading data to S3 using the AWS CLI. Other situations whereby we use S3, which I just want to mention, but I will be going deep into, is the AWS S3 REST APIs and AWS SDK. So there are instances whereby you integrate the process of, maybe it's a process that will lead to objects being uploaded into the S3 when you are working with S3. So you are not directly saving it, but take, for instance, whenever you fill a form, you want the response, maybe the file they upload on a form, to be saved in S3. So you know that the person is not going directly to S3, but whenever the person clicks a form, there should be something that should process it to send the file uploaded to S3. So that's some concept about the AWS S3 and SDK. So now coming to data retrieval, we've spoken about data storage. The data storage is like copying something onto your system. Now you want to retrieve it. There are different reasons why we want to retrieve it, and so some is as simple as just downloading it. There is the interface where you saved, you download it. But on a standard note, we have about 3 to 4 different type of retrieval, and depending on the S3 storage. When we are talking about the S3 standard, we call it standard retrieval. You want to retrieve your data immediately, and you go to the S3 user interface, you click on your bucket, you look at your files and you click download, and this will download your files and you've retrieved your files. So we have standard because you are using, the reason why the standard retriever is because you have the S3 standard category of S3 that you are using at that period. There are some times whereby you are using S3 Glacier. If you've not forgotten, majorly S3 Glacier is for long term and archival purpose. But there are some situations you want to access it instantly, and that's where this S3 instant retriever comes into. So similarly, we have the expedited retriever and standard retriever for archive data. Then we also have the bulk retriever. Another very important thing that I need to mention, because you'll be surprised, there is a particular application that we refer to as hosting static website with S3 for S3. The way we access data or retrieve data from that is through using bucket policies, whereby you need to specify a bucket policy for you to be able to access data in your S3. So similarly, you can even create some policies, IAM policies, whereby you can give people access. You know, I told you that security is very essential in AWS, and these are key things. When we talk about the access control, you can just create an access that it's this kind of users, your people in your organization that can access this type of data. And whenever another person in an organization goes to there, they won't have the opportunity to access data. So it's part of the methods of data retrieval, which I have put down here. It's quite comprehensive. I know the most familiar ones is just go to your S3 and download your object in your S3 bucket and you are able to access it. Yes, that's the basic, but it's very essential that when we are trying to build a solid foundations for people who will be champions in cloud, we need to mention this point. Now, with one of the key things that if you look at this thing, these two slides, 7 and 8, is majorly what I was asked to come and talk about. But I'm very sure I will have lost a lot of people if I just started from methods of storing data without putting in some introductions to what I needed to explain. So in the next coming slide, I'll be sharing with you some features of S3 that you need to get familiar with as someone in the cloud, which are also very important when either trying to store data or retrieving data. The first one is versioning. Versioning is a feature whereby enables you to create different versions of the object instead of, in case of accidental deletion or maybe losing of an important object. So in the sense that when you put a file in a bucket, do you remember I tell you that the file will have a unique key ID? If you now store another file, maybe there was an adjustment with the same key name, the name might be the same in terms of when we are talking about the file, we already spoke that bucket name are unique. But when we talk about the file name, it could be the same, but the key ID will be different. And that's where you'll be able to do versioning. But this versioning does not come automatically. You need to turn it on the S3 bucket. That's something about versioning. Then now, I've emphasized on data security in S3. When we talk about data security, there are two major things. There's encryption in transit and there's encryption at rest. Whenever you are trying to transmit your data, anyone can have access to the communication medium. Is very essential to save it, and that's where you see a lot of websites having HTTPS and others. When we come about encryption at rest, these are the different options that you have that you can protect your data. And I just want to bring your notice to this. Then now, cost optimization. This is very simple. What are we saying about cost optimization? I told you that there are different categories of storage. So there are situations whereby you start with a particular storage type depending on the process that you need, depending on what you need. But maybe as time goes on, you needed to change it. Maybe something that is frequently used, now you don't need it frequently. And you don't want to be charged for frequently used usage. And that's where we have the objects lifecycle management, whereby there is possibility of automatically changing the storage class from one another to the other, and also in a way to delete.
Thank you so much, sir, for wonderful presentation. We have 3 more minutes to end the session. We have 2 more minutes to complete the session, then 1 minute
Okay,
for.
let me just use 1 minute to round up then. I'm almost done. Let me just 1 minute to round up. So the cost optimization has been complete, is what I was talking about. And I mentioned here the use cases of S3, and I have placed this link here. This is a link on an article that I've published on a comprehensive link. I divided it into 7 places: how to store and serve static websites, and even included DNS hosting and different things. I will advise you to check on dev.tio. When you just search for my name, you'll be able to see. For people following me on LinkedIn, you'll have seen the articles. So this was the answer I started, but I'm not sure we have time, but these are I've added different links. Can you see different links on this, on how to be able to do these things step by step, and including with my article that I've pasted? I believe you'll find all these things very useful. I thank you for your attention for this short time to be able to speak about this topic, and I really hope you've gained 1 or 2 things. I appreciate the host for inviting me to give this session, and I really hope you enjoy the rest part of the lectures today. Thanks so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Abdul-Lateef from Ogundipe, for this wonderful session that you have introduced for us. It was Amazon S3 bucket, which is a storage service of AWS. So the next few minutes, the next 1 2 minutes that we're going to the session, you can ask your question in the studio. You can have a question. If you join us on YouTube, you can put up a question. Our excellent guest speaker is here to answer your question. If you have a question, you can put it up. Okay. We have someone here asking a question. Can I have access to the slide?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. I don't know if you can repeat it.
He said, can we have access to this slide?
Yeah, I have mentioned that I will share this. I will share this slide with the host, who can forward it to the respective group, so that you can have you can still give it a look, and also the links that I've shared with you, you can go through it to be able to know a lot about this, what we've spoken about. So definitely after the session, I will be sure to share it with the host, and that won't be a problem. Thank you.
Okay. The person asked that for practical experience, how and where can we get more enlightenment?
For practical experience, number one that I would advise you, especially if you are new here to cloud generally, is number one, set up a free. There's AWS has a free tier. AWS has a free tier account whereby you don't need to pay for anything. Even though there are some limits, there are limits that you should take note of. You just need to verify your account with your card, but they won't deduct any amount from it for 1 year, which you can cancel. And then when you are able to register that, there are some links in my slides that shows you step by step process of building this, of going, achieving some of the things that I've stated in the slide. So please, you can go through that. Then also, I want you to get familiar with AWS documentation. That can be emphasized. AWS documentation is very important. Whenever you start Amazon S3, you will see some documentation that even gives you a lot of things. So with your free account, you can try out a lot of practical things that will be able to have make you have hands-on experience. So that's my advice for you, which probably does not cost you anything. It's just your commitment that it needs.
Thank you so much, Engineer Abdul-Lateef Ogundipe, for your wonderful session. We really
Thank you.
enjoyed your session. We look more forward to engaging you on Amazon Web Services bootcamp in our future bootcamps. We look forward to engaging you. Thank you so much for the
Yeah.
wonderful session. So
Thank you.
I'm going to be moving on to the next session in the next 3 minutes. Let's go for a break. Let's go for a break. Hello, can you hear me, Badr?
Hey, hello, good morning. How you doing?
Fine, fine. Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Can you see your slide?
Sure. Please let me know when you can see my slide.
Okay. Mm, okay. That is not enough.
Yeah, so I mean it's still processing here. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Good morning. Good morning, folks.
Okay, sorry. Uh, sorry. Um, Uh, Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the AWS User Group. The bootcamp is ongoing. The next session that we are going to be having is Engineer Abdul-Lateef, who is a network engineer at AWS Amazon. Um, the Engineer Abdul-Lateef is going to be discussing about we're going to be discussing cloud networking, AWS. Hi, Engineer Abdul-Lateef, it's nice to have you here. You can start your session.
Yeah. Hey, hello, good morning, and thank you for having me. So my name is Toheeb. So I'm a network engineer. So and on this session, so I'll be taking you through the concept of AWS DirectConnect. So yeah, so this is what we are going to have on our agenda for today. So yeah, so and just before we go into that, so I want to quickly, put you through some things that we are not going to discuss on this session. So mainly this section is going to be all about AWS Direct Connect. So we are going to mention a lot of other AWS services. So but But I mean, the goal around this session is that so those sessions, I mean, those services are not going to be discussed. Okay, so what is AWS Direct Connect? So AWS Direct Connect, so I mean, it's just another one of AWS services, so which allow you to have a kind of, I mean, private cabled connection. So from your on-prem to AWS. So I mean, in this case, so you can easily bypass your, I mean, whatever local service provider you are using. So and have a direct cabled connection. So from your edge, I mean, from your edge device directly to AWS, so that you can access your cloud resources. So, I mean, what I put there is just it's a simple illustration of how this works. So, I mean, you're going to have your on-prem data center somewhere. So then from there, so I mean, you're going to have a physical connection through AWS Direct Connect. Then from there, so you can have access to, I mean, to AWS. I mean, whatever AWS resource you have, both public and private resources. So yeah, and to further understand the concept of, I mean, how direct DX works. So I mean, there are some, I mean, as you know, DX is a networking service. So there are some concepts that we need to understand. So especially for folks that are not into networking background in here. So yeah, so we have the concept of DX connection. So what is a DX connection? The DX connection is a physical link. So I mean, physical link, you can think of, so which is going to connect from your edge from an interface on your edge device, so to, I mean, to AWS Direct Connect. I mean, AWS, whatever AWS devices that you are connecting to, then we also have the concept of virtual interfaces. So what I mean, a virtual interface, I mean, which is called a direct connect VIF. So it's I mean, it's basically a BGP session. So speaking about BGP is Border Gateway Protocol. So it's an open standard, industry standard protocol. So which allow you to exchange routes between two autonomous systems. So I mean, in this case, so I mean, you are going to have a BGP session between your edge device and AWS. So over which you can exchange routes directly from, I mean, directly to AWS, and so also receive routes from AWS. So which allow you to have, I mean, a control plane access to, I mean, whatever resource you have with AWS. So then, I mean, another thing I want you to understand is the concept of virtual LAN, which is a VLAN. So, I mean, for folks that are not into networking background here, so I mean, you can see VLAN just as a tag. So I mean, assuming that, okay, I mean, I'm sending a package maybe from point A to point B. So I mean, whenever I want to send my package, what am I going to do? So I box the package and I put an identity on it. So just to show that, oh, this is my own package. So when I take it to my carrier company, what are they going to do? So whatever, all the packages that they receive going to point B, they put everything together and ship it, I mean, probably on a single vehicle, right? So then when they get to their destination, to based on the identity that is on it, the labeling, so then they can separate. So you can see the concept of VLAN as that. So I mean, but in this concept, so it's from networking point of view, so it's just a label to identify. I mean your flow of traffic. So then trunking. So I mean trunking. Whenever you create a DX connection, so it's going to operate in a particular networking mode called trunking. So and it's going to run a standard a open standard protocol called 802.1q. So for folks that are interested, so you can easily look this up, or up on Google. So it's a standard IEEE documentation, so which allow you to send multiple VLANs over a single connection. So now, now that you understand, okay, what are the components that are involved in AWS Direct Connect? So then the question right now is, so how can I set up, AWS Direct Connect? So the first thing you need to do is, so you need to create a connection request on your AWS console. So how do we do this? So you log into your AWS console, so you search for Direct Connect. So once you search for Direct Connect, then the first thing you do is to create a connection. So meanwhile, when you are creating a connection, so you are going to select, a AWS location. So there are lots of AWS locations that have DX services. So you are going to look for one that is in your location. Not only in your location, preferably where you have your IT infrastructure located. So once to do that, then what you are going to do is, so you send it, you create a connection, so which is going to be submitted to AWS direct, to AWS. Then you wait for it to be approved. So once it is approved, then you are going to get something called a letter of authorization. So letter of authorization, so it's a letter that is going to have all your connection information. So once you get this letter, so what you expect to do with it is, so you take it to whatever whatever collocation center you are that you select. So once you take the letter of authorization to them, so they are going to understand how to do the connection for you. And once the connection is in place, so then whatever interface you are using on your local devices, so it's supposed, the interface is going to come up both physically up and admin up. So then they also have the concept of dedicated and hosted connection. So speaking about AWS, so when you are creating your DX connection, so there are a couple of speed that is offered by AWS. So depending on your location, so we have there is 1 gig connection, you have a 10 gig connection, you have a 100 gig connection. So and for folks that are following up with some recent announcements with the AWS, there is also the concept of 400 gig connections. Though from if you go through the link I post here, you are going to see locations where where we have all these connections available. So and the type of speed that is available in there. So from that point of view, so the minimum you can have is 1 gig, or is 1 gig connection. But so take for example, what if you have a situation whereby your collocation center, so there is no 1 gig connection. There is no 1 gig service, DX service available there, or maybe the list that is available is 10 gig. But for you as a small scale enterprise, so what you want is 1 gig. So then you have to do something called a hosted connection. A hosted connection is, it's a kind of connection whereby you have AWS partners. So there are some companies that partner with AWS. So they bought connection directly from Amazon, they resell to you. So based on whatever whatever you need. So but the catch with this type of connection is that it's not going to be created directly from your AWS console. So but a dedicated connection is a type of connection that is owned by one customer. So meaning that this is a connection that you create directly from your AWS console. So then once your connection is created, then approved by AWS, and you get a letter of authorization, your collocation center does the cross connect connection, and your physical interface is up. So then the next thing is, what's next? So then you need to create something called a virtual interface, which is called a VIF. So as I said earlier, so your DX connection is going to run a 802.1 IEEE documentation, trunking. So then on it, so you are going to have a lot of you are going to have the option to send your traffic over VLANs. So then over each VLAN, then over a VLAN, then you can create something called a virtual interface. So there are basically 3 types of virtual interface that you can create. That is a public, private, and a transitive virtual interface. So the idea with this is, so you need to understand what type of service do I want to access with this connection. So if what I want to access is a public service like AWS DynamoDB or S3, so then you are going to create something called a public VIF. So if what I want to access is a private resource, like I want to access my my VPC, so over a VGW or a transit gateway. So then you are going to create something called a private VIF. So then the idea is, so transit VIF is also a kind of private VIF. So I will get to that, so that you can get more understanding on how private VIF and is differentiated from a transit VIF. So what do you need to create a VIF? So if you want to create a VIF, so you go to your AWS console. So if you want to create a private VIF, then you are going just go there, you specify the name of your connection. So which owner account is this going to be? So then of course you create you select public VIF when creating your connection. So and once that is up, then you can download your enterprise configuration directly from your AWS console, depending on whatever vendor you are using. So then you can deploy the configuration on your enterprise side, and a BGP connection will come up between your enterprise and AWS. Then from there, so you can you can receive public route from AWS to access your public resources over a public VIF. So then we also have the concept of private VIF. So what if I have, in the situation I have a VPC, so then which is a private resource, then I want to access it through AWS. So I'm going to use something called a private VIF. So a private VIF kind of differ from a public VIF, because when creating a private VIF, you are going to have you are going to create something called an attachment. So when I'm speaking about attachments, so there are two categories of attachment you can use. You can use something called a direct connect gateway, or you can use a virtual gateway. So when you use the direct connect gateway, so what it means is that so you can use that that private VIF to access your AWS resource in across all AWS regions. So without a DX gateway, so if you use virtual gateway attachment, so that VIF will only be able to access your that single VPC in that that single VGW in that region. So meaning that without a direct connect gateway, so you cannot use your private VIF to access your resource in another region, except from the region where you have your direct connect connection. So then you also have the concept of transit VIF. So if you are in a situation whereby you know that, okay, to access your resources, you'll be using a transit gateway. So then the type of VIF you need to create is it's called a transit VIF. So then to create your transit VIF, so you have to attach it to what is called a DX gateway. So which will give you access to to access your VPC resource through a AWS transit gateway. So then once you are done with it, depending on on whatever option or whatever design you have here, so once you are done with this, so you are going to have a BGP connection between your on-prem and your AWS. So there is also the concept of if you there is if you are very conversant with with AWS DX public documentation, there is also the concept of community. So whereby you have the option to tell AWS so how much do you want them to advertise your route. So okay, so now you have created your connection, you've gotten it approved, you create your VIF. So the next thing we need to do is, so how do we ensure that the confidentiality of our information that we are transferring from our on-prem to AWS is not compromised? So on your enterprise side, so which is what is depicted there as customer network. So the confidentiality of your information is owned by you. So, but once your information pass over the the DX connection to AWS, then the confidentiality of that information is owned by Amazon. But what happens over your DX connection? So so that is where the concept of MAC security comes in. So MAC security is a feature so that you can enable when you are creating your DX con, such that so your information over a DX con is going to be encrypted. So it uses a standard IEEE documentation. So for folks that are interested, so you are more about how MAC security works, so you can go search IEEE 802.1AE documentation, so which is just the standard documentation from MACsec, and you can and from there you can easily pick up more detail on how this works. So then we also have the concept of AWS Direct Connect Gateway. So as I said earlier, so when you created a DX connection in a region, so the only thing you can do is without DX gateway, so you can only use that DX connection to access your AWS resource in that region. So that is private resource. So to be more specific, so because if you to access your public resource, you don't need the WSDX gateway. So speaking of private resource, that is your VPC. So meaning that if you have if I have a DX connection in a particular region, so you can only use this to access your VPC. Your VPC over whatever VGW or transit gateway just in that region. So, but the idea is, so what if what if I want to use my connection to access, my resource in other region? So that is where the concept of DX gateway comes in. So DX gateway, so it's going to allow you to use your, your DX con to access your AWS resource in other region, aside from the region where you have your, your connection created. So yeah, that's a very brief overview of how AWS Direct Connect work and how you can easily set it up. So yeah, so from here, so I'm going to take some questions. So if you have, any questions you might want to ask on, on the concept of AWS DX. So I think over the next 10 minutes, so feel free to, to answer your, to ask your question. I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdul, for a wonderful session. Um, Please, if you have any question that you want to ask Engineer Badil on AWS, DirectConnect, those who are on the studio can ask a question. Then,
Yeah. So yeah, so should you don't have any question now, so this is how to contact me on the screen. So you can easily contact me on LinkedIn, or you can send me direct email. So should you have any questions, so any interesting thing that you'd
um,
like to know about AWS, so, and should you also like to know more about AWS, so this is a public documentation, so you can easily read it up. If there's anything you don't understand or you need more explanation, so feel free to hit me up anytime. So yeah, thank
okay,
you.
I think Engineer Badil want to ask a question here. Um, I don't seem to understand the concept of BGP.
Yeah, so so as I said earlier, so just to give you a simple explanation, a simple explanation. So speaking when BGP is it's not an AWS concept, so it's a general networking concept. So it's called Border Gateway Protocol. So so it's, just like with other protocols. So a protocol, by the way, it's just a set of instructions. So when you have I mean me and you, and human beings right now, so we can communicate in whatever language we like. So, but when you are speaking about, about systems, so about computers, so they don't understand. The only language they understand is whatever you tell them to understand. To say. So, which is where the concept of protocols come in. So, border gateway protocol, which is BGP, so it's a concept that allow us to exchange routes. So between, between two autonomous systems. So, when I say autonomous system is, it's basically a kind of routing domain. So take, for example, University of Ibadan, UI. So UI can be a single autonomous system. So Amazon is an autonomous system. So, it's because, we belong to, those two entities, so they belong to different domain. So whenever we want to exchange routes with each other so that we can establish reachability, so that is where the concept of BGP comes in. So, yeah, this is a kind of open standard document, open standard resource. So, and yeah, once set up, so then I can tell you, okay, so okay, like take for example, you create a VPC in the region of 192.168.10 dot something. So then with BGP from your on-prem to AWS, so what I can do is that, so AWS can tell your local device, okay, if you are going to 192.168.10. whatever, so then send this to me. So that's, that is basically how it works here. So BGP is an open standard, protocol, as I say, so not peculiar to AWS. So there are lots of very good videos on YouTube, and some very quick search on Google is going to give you a lot of information. Then, if there's any part that you don't understand, and definitely you need some information, so feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or send me an email. So I'll be happy to answer you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Please, if you have any more questions. If you have more questions, you can question. Okay, someone is asking that, are they going to have access to the slides?
You said?
Someone is asking that, are they going to have access to the slides?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So after this session, so I will share the slide with the host. So yeah, so and the host can share with you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. Do you have anyone with questions?
Yeah. So
Look on the stage.
yeah, so so definitely. So in case there is not more questions, so this is just a kind of very brief introduction about DX as a concept. So there are a lot of things so that you can do with DX, but not included in this. In this presentation. So so definitely I really suggest you read up the public documentation. So then you have anything that you don't understand, so feel free to ask me, so and I will be very happy to explain to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Engineer Abdul-Lateef.
Yeah.
We really enjoy your presentation on AWS Direct, and we love to engage you more in the future bootcamp at the University of Ibadan, AWS user group. Thank you so much. We are also one of our stakeholders of the community.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So and yeah, sure. Have a nice day.
So thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Hello, Mr. Sulaiman, Engineer Sulaiman. Engineer Olubi.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Nice having you. Can you share a slide, please?
Okay, all right. Just do that. Just a moment. Just let me know once you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see the screen. Okay. Uh, can you share the screen? Can you share the slide again?
Okay, all right. Just a moment. Okay. All right.
Okay.
I
We are
hope
going to
you.
start the session in the next 1 minute.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the third session of the AWS User Group University of Ibadan Bootcamp that we are currently the second week. Uh, the next chapter, we are going to be having engineer Sulaiman Olubiyi, who is AWS community builder and the co-founder, one of the co-founders of AWS User Group University of Ibadan. It's nice to have you, Engineer Sulaiman Olubiyi. So, Engineer Sulaiman Olubiyi is going to be discussing about demystifying AWS networking, VPC, VPN, TGW, and TLB. Over to you, Engineer Sulaiman Olubiyi.
All right. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here this morning, and I hope we're all doing good. I don't know. Can I see the comment section? I also want to see your comment on the chat. Are you ready for the session? How are you doing this morning? And I hope you've learned a lot from the previous session as well. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. So I'll be talking about AWS networking, VPC, VPN, TGW, and the LB. So what does it mean? Virtual private cloud, virtual private network, transit gateway, and load balancer. Don't mind me. I just like to shorten it. Okay. All right. My name is Sulaiman Olubi. As the host has actually said, I'm in AWS community builder. And as well, I'm one of the founding committee for the Nigeria User Group for University of Ibadan, and as well as the node itself. And it's good to have the student body in terms of integrating the student arm, such as university, into the Nigeria User Group as a whole as well. And the user group has some functionalities among universities. We have Univen, we have Uniloring, and some sorts like that, Unilag as well. So it's a good one, taking it to University of Ibadan as well. So I'm just trying to talk about the community in some seconds. So let me go straight to my slide. Okay. So why AWS networking? People might be saying that, okay, what does networking mean? What does AWS mean? And how does it works? And how does company use it? What's it about? So basically from the general adopted definition, and cloud service is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with the pay-as-you-go pricing. So there are some keywords there: the on-demand delivery, the pay-as-you-go, the over the internet, and the cost as well, and the management. So those are the keywords there. So which means that if I'm in the corner of my room at Indy, or I'm in Zik, or I'm in Kuti, I can quickly just spin up an instance. As far as I have internet connection, I can build a whole application right from the corner of my room in Teda without needing to buy servers or GPUs, or I need to buy RAM or anything. So from my desk, I can set up a database, put it in an highly available architecture, have everything I want just from the corner of my room or my desk here or in your hostel over there. So it means that it is on-demand delivery. It is when you need it, you can provision it. And it comes with pay-as-you-go pricing, like in terms of, okay, what you use is what you pay for. You don't oversubscribe. It doesn't affect your OPEX, your capex, rather, your capital expenditure. So it's very cost efficient. So the only thing you bother about is your OPEX, which is your operating cost, and it's over the internet. As far as you have internet with you, you can do anything you like. You can run an AI model. You can use Bedrock. You can use a lot of things. You can use SageMaker. You can use all the services at the right and for like straight from anywhere you are as far as you have internet. So let me just go to where I want to. I don't want to be a bit diverged. So let me just go to what I'm expected to talk about, which is networking. So networking, the way we see networking, some people might have the knowledge or the background about networking. So just about communicating, it's just about trying to connect together. So that's how we have the WW, the internet. So all these are just networking. They are network, like, okay, I want to speak with you. Okay, we have a lot of people that want to speak together. So just to ease communication, that's the essence of networking. For A to communicate to B, for B to communicate to A. So that's the physical network we know. So we have switches, we have routers, and all sort of that. We have servers, we have database, we have file servers, we have the backup systems, we have load balancers, we have F5, Cisco, FortiGate. Those are the physical networks, and those guys are very expensive. A single router costs around more than $12,000, $6,000 or something. Switches, firewalls, so those are expensive. And so, someone like me and you trying to just bring up something new, innovate, do a startup. How can we afford such big expenses like that? So that's why AWS comes to the rescue. So it's able to simplify the overall of the networking. Okay, how will my database connect to my application server, to my web server, to my front end, okay, to my back end? So how's the communication is going to be like? So how do I connect? Okay, people coming from the internet, how do they hit my application? How can I do a kind of a load balancing without needing to buy F5 or a vendor equipment? So those are the things AWS networking makes easier for us, and it actually make it in a way that, okay, just anyone can just come here and spin it up and have a whole solution for itself. So let me go to the next slide. So don't mind this diagram. It's very big. It's a very big one. It has a lot of components, but I will just try to just take. This is the old networking of AWS as of today, and I will just try to take pinpoint, just see an overview of it, the way it looks like. So it's not something complex. It's something very easy, and something there's the internet there, there is documentation there. But what I want to speak at is about the VPC as a whole. And we have the VPC, we have the VGW, which my previous um, colleague has talked about, Toheeb. So he mentioned the Direct Connect. As you can see, Direct Connect is here. So it's also a very big um, feature on its own. So the whole concept, how everything connects, the VPC endpoints, the endpoints, the transit gateway, this is you coming from the internet. So all of this, I will explain it in my further slide. So I'm just showing this to show you how everything connects together, maybe your whole networking concept. So this is the VPC, which is the virtual private cloud. This is so the VPC is just like, so let me come back here. So the VPC is just like an isolated network. You are the owner of that network. So now let me give you this similitude. VPC, AWS is just like estate. Let's say, okay, all these estates, maybe garden estate or something. That's AWS for you. Do you understand? So in that estate, AWS now have tenants. So maybe we have 2 bungalow, 3 bungalow. You know all those apartments inside that estate. Those are VPC. So in your estate, you are the one controlling your estate. You are the one controlling your VPC. It's not AWS controlling your apartment for you. You are the owner. So that's why this outer border is the AWS network. That's the backbone network. So inside it, you now have your VPC. That's what we call virtual private cloud. It is for you alone. You are the owner. Just like your apartment inside the big estate, you are the owner of your apartment. So, but inside your apartment, you now have different things in your apartment. You have public subnet, you have private subnet. Public subnet is okay if someone wants to meet me, maybe like someone I don't know before, someone just coming to meet me. I can't allow him to come to my bedroom. He's going to stay in my sitting room. So that's your public subnet. Any guy coming from the internet, it lands on your public subnet. So anybody cannot just be coming from the internet and back into your private subnet. No. So anybody that wants to come and see you coming from the internet, it lands on the public subnet. So that's why they call it public subnet. And what do you have on your public subnet is your application server. For example, www.facebook.com. Your public exposed servers are on your public subnet. What you want people to reach you on. For example, okay, you have a startup, you have like something like Uber or Glovo or something. So if you want to provision that kind of thing, your application, your web application, people will order or something. Anybody can have access to it, will be on the public subnet. Just like a visitor coming to visit you. All of them, anybody that you don't know, they are on your public subnet. So private subnet is your database. It's in-house. For example, me, my children, my siblings, they can enter my bedroom. They can enter my private subnet. So those are people that you know. We. For example, now, if you did hostel, maybe you did Zik or you did Teda, okay, your guy can enter your bunk. So now your guy. So those are private subnet. We can communicate together. But anybody coming from anywhere you don't know, can't just enter your bunk like that. So private subnet is used for it's not exposed to the internet. It's majorly used for database, something you don't want people to see, something that you know it's private for you alone. So that's what you put on your private subnet. So you don't want people from outside to access your private subnet. So that's what private subnet is about. So I don't know. Can I see the comments? Are you still there? Am I too fast? Do you want me to slow down? What do you think? Because I always make my session a bit interactive. Okay. All right. So from what I'm saying, so let's continue. So internet gateway. Internet gateway is what allows you to go to the internet. It's what that AWS provide for you as a service to go to the internet. So without IGW, internet gateway, people cannot reach you. That's just what it means. So why NAT gateway means that, okay, assuming you're on a private subnet, your database, you want to update, you want to update your database application, or maybe you're using Oracle, you want to update them, you want to access internet, and you don't want your public IP to be exposed. So that's when you use the NAT gateway. So NAT gateway is just to masquerade yourself on the private subnet from going to the internet. So that's how it works. So now let me talk about two things. We have security groups and we have network access control lists. So security group are instance-based security group. They protect you on your instance. They protect your servers. For example, I want to expose my server on port 8080. Anybody from internet can reach me on that port. So security group will do that. Is a security mechanism on instance level. That's on your EC2 instance. So anything you provision in this guy, security group is going to be the one that will, okay, allow or deny, and it's actually stateful. So the other one is network access control list. That one works on the network level. So for example, you can block based on subnet. Okay, I don't want this particular IP to reach me on this subnet. So you can just block, okay, any public IP coming from so block it on the subnet level. So it blocks it on the network access control list. So that's all the VPC is about. Because of time, I'm just trying to take it slower a bit. But if you have any questions, you can just write your questions down or just note them. So let me go to the second one. And also I have an article. Maybe I'm going to share it to the host. I'm a community builder, so I write blogs on AWS networking. So that's what I specialize on. So I have an article that I explain what VPC looks like so that you will be able to understand very well. So let me go to the next slide. Okay, so we have VPN. VPN is just virtual private network. For example, now I want to talk to someone. I don't want anybody to interfere to our message. Just me and you. So that's when VPN. That's what they call it, virtual private network. So if you want your AWS to communicate with another network outside AWS, that's when you use virtual private network. For example, now you have your on-prem and you don't have money for DX. DX, which Toheeb explained earlier, it's for large organization, people that are heavily on AWS. They have the money because it takes time. You have to generate your LOC, you have to get your partner connect, a lot of things like that. You need to get it. And the reason why is that it's very secured. It's a 10 gig, 400 gig, 40 gig. So that's why DX takes a long time. But other private network is instant. As far as you have a VPN enabled service, for example, on your on-prem, you have a Cisco router, or you have a FortiGate router, and you have internet on it. You can create what we call an IPsec VPN. The traffic is going over the internet, but it is encrypted. It is encrypted using IPsec. You understand? So that's how it actually works. So I can quickly, right on this call, I can just, okay, I want to communicate with my office network, which is called the customer gateway. This customer gateway is going to be your public IP of your network, of your office. It's going to be, so with this public IP, they will sync together, create what we call security association, SA, and they are going to negotiate based on some encryption parameters and algorithm to form the IPsec VPN session. So an AWS by default generates two tunnels, is in HA, router 1, router 2. So it's going to make it in HA 1 and 2. So in case there's issue on the first one, it fails over to the second one. So that's how VPN works. So right spot, you can connect your VPN to Google, to Microsoft Azure, to your on-prem, as far as you have internet service. And it's something very, very easy to create. And maybe after this, I'll quickly go to my console and show you how everything looks like. And what can you access over the VPN? You can access your private services, your EC2 instance, your RDS, which is your database, and any item that has a networking, that has a private subnet networking, then that AWS has signed an IP to it, and you have a route to it on your routing table. So those are the services. Maybe you want for example, now there's some instance whereby some applications, they have their database on-prem and their web front end is on AWS. So they want to connect to it just to fulfill that transaction. So it works in that way as well. And it is 1.25 gigabits. That's a lot for someone that doesn't have money for DS Connect. Okay. The last one The last one is transit gateway. Transit gateway is so the reason for this transit gateway is that initially before this guy comes on, AWS VPC, you if you want to connect, okay, you have VPC A want to connect to VPC B, you pair them together. That's what they call pairing. But pairing is not transitive. What do I mean by transitive? If I connect A to B and I connect B to C, that doesn't mean that A and C will be connected. Do you understand? So that's what it means. So if I connect A to B, B to C, that doesn't mean that okay, A and C will get connected. So it's not transitive. That's number one. Number two, AWS VC pairing, it has to be in a full mesh configuration. For example, now I have 5 VPCs and I don't need them to connect together. I need to have nothing less than, let me do the formula, n into bracket n minus 1 divided by 2. So that's something about maybe like 20 connections for just 5. So it has to be a full mesh configuration. So who wants to have the time? So assuming you are the network manager of a company, and you guys have like 10 VPC, and all of them needs to communicate together. You'll be having nothing less than 45 connections. Who is going to do that? That's too monotonous. Who has the time to be doing that kind of long work? So that's why AWS, okay, it comes with this new feature, which is the transit gateway. So the transit gateway, you just only have one transit gateway, and it's going to um, enable the connection from your VPCs around your VPC. So the only thing you need is just the connection from your VPC to your VPC to your transit gateway, as shown on my diagram here. And another interesting thing is that you can even attach a VPN connection to it. Maybe, for example, now you have a company, you have your HQ, you have an HQ site and you have your DR site. So your DR site and HQ site can connect to transit gateway. So your VPC will be able to connect to any of your sites, irrespective, as far as you have the routing in place. So it makes it very easier. It's scalable instead of having hundreds of connections. So it makes it easier to for your own connection. And also it's cost optimized. You only pay for the transit gateway processing fee, which is per hour. And the last thing is you can manage it easily. Easily. Yeah, you can manage it easily. So I think that's all for transit gateway. So this all these icons are showing that okay, either you have either you have a BGP pairing, or you have a direct connect, or you have a GRE tunnel. Transit gateway works for all of them. So it's a game changer. If you are planning to go deeper into AWS networking, you need to understand transit gateway. Companies that's what companies use to manage their extranet connections to AWS. A lot of them. So let me move forward from that. So the last one, that's load balancer. So the idea of load balancer is that okay, um, it's actually accepts multiple connections. So for example, now Jumia wants to do Black Friday, and assuming Jumia has only one server, do you know the amount of traffic Jumia gets on their Black Friday? Thousands of traffic. So I'm very sure if they are using one server, that time that server is going to crash. Everything will crash. But for that kind of scenario, the load balancer comes to the rescue, in which you can you can provision a load balancer. So at the back end of the load balancer, which we call the target, that's going to be your server. So all your incoming calls will be going to the load balancer. So it is going to be redirected to the target groups. And those target groups, they have rules. They have rules. Okay. For example, now Jumia can set it, okay, when your traffic reaches 80%, okay, scale it up. Okay, add another server to it. That one also reaches another 80% usage, maybe CPU or memory, increase it to 4. So those are the metrics they use in adjusting the target group. So in this target group, works based on listener. For example, now www.jumia.com/card or slash iPhones. So iPhones will pass you to the target groups where they've already customized for you to see iPhones. Are you getting based on the listener rules? And as well, okay, www.jumia.com/slash maybe cards or slash cash out, or you want to pay, or you want all your cards, you want to see your items. So that listener rule is based on the URL that you typed. So those are the kind of way in which the application is being engineered just to ensure a kind of an highly available system um, for the application. So all what we are explaining since is practical situation, highly available, highly optimized. All these things are practical solution which people use day by day. There is no how you want to bring your application. You need to think, okay, how do I bring a load balancer? What do I need to do? What's going to be my listener rules? Is it going to be listening on 443? Okay, whenever Jibril, okay, if it's going to, for example, if I want to do maybe payment, I can direct it to some target groups. So those are the loops. So we have the load balancer, we have two types. We have the application load balancer and we have the network load balancer. So what does it do? Application load balancer works on 443, that's application. The load balancer
Thank you,
works on TCP.
Engineer Sulaiman. We have less than
Going,
5 minutes
right?
to complete the
Okay.
session.
I'll round up now. I'll round up. So I'm just trying to explain difference between application load balancer and network load balancer. Application load balancer use it for 443 application. That's all. For network load balancer, use for TCP proxy. TCP proxy, SSL proxy, that's when you use the network load balancer. So further engagements, you would have you might need to read up on documentation for that. But in a quick summary, that's what the load balancer does, and that's how it works. So I think I'm into my last slide. So if you have any question, it's good. You can ask a question. And if you don't have any question, yeah. So by doing that, let me try to share my blog article to the hosts so I can share as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Engineer Sulaiman Olubi, for the wonderful session that you have given us. We really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. So if you have any question for Engineer Sulaiman, please you can put forward your question. Those who are on the screen, those who are on the studio, please you can ask your question. Mrs. Kelechi Ofoebu, Mr. Kabir, Mr. Amina Shao, Mr. Bello. If you have any question, you can ask your question, please. And those who are joining us online on YouTube, you can have a question. Okay, Mr. Aminat Animasha was asking that on the recording we share. Yeah, we are going to share the recording. We are going to share it, of course.
I'm expecting someone to ask me a question about this dynamic diagram. So we do all understand what is inside this diagram like this.
Anyone to describe the diagram?
Okay, I think I'm seeing a question from Adebayo Salahuddin. He said VPC and VPN, which one is highly recommended? So let me explain. VPC, VPN, they are two different entities. So VPC is your own isolated environment on AWS. You are the one that you control it. You are the one that you are the one that provision it by yourself. That's VPC. Let me go here. Let me come here. So this is a VPC. So you're going to give it a network. Maybe it comes with a /16 network. So VPC is just like your own apartment inside the big estate. So you understand? So that's VPC. But VPN is okay from your estate. You want to talk to another person in another estate. You want to move out of your estate and you want to talk to them privately. That's how VPN works. So it's a different entity. So VPN works if you want to communicate outside AWS cloud on a private on a private level, on a secured way. That's what they call it, a VPN. VPN is the general an IEEE normal standard, just virtual private network, and it works using IPsec, Internet Protocol Security. So that's how VPN works. So and another thing is that some people always say, okay, what is client VPN? Client VPN is also something we call client VPN. So client VPN is straight from this VPN. This VPN is called site-to-site VPN. So from your own estate, from your own apartment in your estate to another person apartment in their own estate, that's site-to-site VPN. But client VPN is okay. You are working in a company. You are working in a company, and you guys want to access your AWS resource privately from your company. So you need to install VPN on your laptop. There's something we call Amazon Workspace. Amazon has something we call client VPN. So directly from your laptop, you'll be able to access all your AWS resources on your laptop. So that's what we call the client VPN. AWS is going to provision you a workspace. That from that workspace is going to directly link to your VPC. So everything will link back to your VPC. So that's just the difference.
Okay, thank you so much, Engineer Sulaiman Oluwi, for the wonderful session. Since we don't have any more questions, we are going to call it a day, and we are going to continue the session. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, previous speakers, Engineer Ogundipe Abdul-Lateef. Thank you for your presentation. Engineer Toheeb, thank you for your presentation. Engineer Sulaiman Oluwi, thank you so much. We really appreciate your presentation. I really appreciate that we've gained and learned so much from the presentation. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. I'm glad it's a pleasure to have you and join the webinar. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.